Hey, welcome back, everybody. Stephen Warren Hill again, your CT host. Welcome to the panel called Traveling with the Doctor. I'll be introducing the panel moderator in just a moment. And my co-host Nick has something to tell you.
Hi, everybody. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We wanted to let you know that we put a post up for those of you who like Dalek Alley and heard us talk about that a little bit earlier during our opening. Want to let you know that there's a post up there where we would love for you to share your favorite photos of Daleks or you with the Dalek to that feed. Feel free to get involved. Do that online on Facebook. Also wanted to let you know that if people are interested in participating in one of the Doctor Who role-playing games, there's still slots available for that for the Friday night and also Saturday night game. We welcome you to check that out. How can you sign up for that? Look at the Facebook, Chicago TARDIS Facebook page and email the email address that is shared on that post. So if you're interested in that, feel free to get involved. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Nick. And now I'm going to introduce you all to the originator of this panel, Traveling with the Doctor, Nathan Laws. Nathan, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. So everybody, thanks for joining us at Virtual Chicago TARDIS this year. As mentioned, I am Nathan Laws. I am the host of the 42 Cast, which is your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything, which is where we talk about just about any topic that's genre fiction in any medium with a rotating cast of guests. And I also recently have just started the Time Streams podcast where my friend Juliet and I are watching through all of Doctor Who from the beginning. And she's never seen any of it except for a little bit of the new series. Like she's seen Eccleston and Tennant, and I've been watching Doctor Who since I was 5. So we have a lot of very interesting discussions about that. So you can check those out at any podcast, place. It's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all that. But let's meet the rest of our guests really quick. And so, Larry, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Larry Van Mersbergen. I'm the host and producer of the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, and you might have seen me earlier presenting Doctor Who Collecting, and I've been a presenter at Chicago TARDIS for the last 6 years. And it's great to be here again with you, Nathan.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, Larry. And Amber?
Hey, I'm Amber. I'm sorry to say, but also kind of excited to say that this is my first Chicago TARDIS, so I'm finally getting to be here because it's virtual, which is nice. I'm actually the co-chair of Console Room, which is the Doctor Who convention in Minnesota, and I've been a Whovian for eight years now. So I got into it really hard when a few years ago. Still catching up on some of the classic Who, but really loving it.
All right, great. Well, it's good to have you as on your first Chicago TARDIS.
Yeah.
And Trevor.
Yes, hello. My name's Trevor Ramsey. I have been an attendee at Chicago TARDIS, oh my gosh, since 2010, 2011, I think, and been on a few panels off and on. Been a long time fan. I think I got introduced to it in the early 80s, right as Tom Baker was leaving, and then got into Peter Davison, and then when the show came back, was very excited, and it's just been fun to see the fandom blossom so much since what I used to grow up with in my day. So.
All right, very cool. And Rachel?
I'm Rachel Montgomery. Hi. I am the host of the Doctor Who screening series here in Chicago, and I have hosted a lot of panels, Doctor Who panels around the country, and my absolute favorite, Chicago TARDIS. There could not be any way that we could have Thanksgiving without Chicago TARDIS. It is a Chicago tradition. And there was no way that I could not be virtually with you guys today. And I'm so glad you guys did it because you've made a lot of Whovians very, very happy.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, it feels weird that I didn't pack up to head out to Chicago this year, but it's good that we can at least have the con. But yeah, so let's start with the panel. So the idea was, Doctor, a lot of people talk about, like the Doctor, it would be really cool if I met the Doctor, but he gets into a lot of really dangerous situations. People don't always get out alive when, they travel with the Doctor. So my question is, or other horrible things happen to them. So my question for everybody is, would you want to travel with the Doctor really? And if so, which incarnation of the Doctor would you want to travel with? Let's go in reverse order from how we introduced. So Rachel, why don't you start us off?
Well, considering 10 is my doctor, but 4 is my pediatrician. Just saying. I initially was gonna say the 4th doctor, Tom Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the excitement and the fact that you can go so many different places with him and he's willing to take you and you don't feel like you're an intrusion as long as you're not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
10, I actually was going to say yes, more so than 4. But, you know, after time was victorious, I just, you know, I think I'm going to do Peter Capaldi's doctor. I think I'm gonna...
So you have 2 choices and you pick the third one.
Way left on you, girl. Way left. So I think I'm going to go with Peter Capaldi's doctor.
Okay. All right. So Trevor?
Man, let's see. Rachel hit a great spot on that about the 4th being, that's a great phrase. The 4th doctor is my pediatrician. That's a good one. That's great. Because yeah, that's my first introduction. You know, I really thought about these too, because, you know, they all bring different elements to what the travel experience is going to be like. And trying to weigh that and going, well, what, you know, now if the thought is you're trying to maybe avoid risk, I think I would go with the 7th doctor in that, because the 7th doctor seems to actually have a lot of, he knows what's going to happen. It's like you always seem to get that sense of, I know how this is all going to play out because I've already set this all in motion long, long ago. And so I guess if you're going, well, yeah, if you're wanting to have some fun and adventure, but kind of have the risk pretty well minimized, other than maybe your psychological health, I suppose, then I'd say the 7th doctor is your good bet. But that seems a little limiting too in some ways. I kind of gravitate, strangely enough, over the years, I've gotten more and more fond of the 5th doctor. The 5th doctor's got this exuberance about the adventures he has, but at the same time, a sense of not really being completely in control, and that things can get out of hand very quickly. He does his best to try to make it work at the end of it all, but it often will be with the best of intentions and go horribly wrong.
Right.
And yet that sounds like the most satisfying experiences you have, because you're not going to, if you ever gone traveling is never fun if everything goes perfectly correctly. It's much more fun when something goes wrong, you arrive 4 hours late, you can't find where you're going, and yet at the end of it, you go, man, I have a great story to tell, and it was an amazing experience. I felt terrified at the time. So that's I'm going to go with the 5th doctor, I think.
All right, Rachel, I think I know where you're going with this, but let's wait to get everybody a chance to say their first, and then we'll start talking a little more about like the ins and outs of it. So Amber, what would you think? Would you want to travel with the doctor? And if you do, who would you want to travel with? Which one?
You know, I would, because I think any travel, even if it's not in a TARDIS, it has some amount of risk, maybe just not as extreme. So I feel like I do disagree. I think that trips going exactly as I planned is much less stressful for me. So I would prefer it to be like at least something. I'm a big planner, so like I'd prefer it to like kind of go as planned mostly, at least. But I think, you know, when I was thinking about it, and I haven't seen any of the Time Lord Victoria stuff yet, so I don't know what you're referring to, and I don't know if that would change anything that I would say right now. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking I'd really like 13, because when I'm used to traveling with my family, we do a lot of large family trips for very, very long periods of time. So I kind of like that big group. When you're traveling, you always have somebody to kind of go through these experiences with and share those memories with. So I really enjoy that. So I think, I feel like the 13th Doctor kind of has everything in hand for the most part, even if it kind of goes awry. I feel like she's going to figure it out. I feel somewhat, I guess, safe in traveling into the unknown in that space. So I think I would go with 13.
Okay. And Larry?
Well, this was an interesting question because I thought I'd go way back, because before the TARDIS actually worked, I think the second Doctor would have been a great person to travel with, good old Patrick here, because he never knew where he was going in any of the episodes. And even when he had a stowaway, he was like, "Are you sure?" And that's when the series decided to repeat the entire Evil of the Daleks to show Zoe how dangerous this could be. And she said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And they ended up going to some of the most amazing places, from the Highlands of Scotland to deep space to just some interesting historical times. And I thought, and of course, he was always fun about it and kind of goofy and always taking it in stride. I thought that he might be a good one, but one more I thought would be even more interesting would be Peter Cushing's Doctor, because he was so flighty and so off the mark. And the first time somebody leaned on the controls and they were off to a different planet, and the second time he, somebody hits the door right when they hit the button, and thought, okay, well, you're gonna have a hard time finding a phone box in 2150 AD. So I thought he might be interesting to travel with as well.
It's funny. I left this open-ended precisely because I was wondering if someone would pick one of the alternate doctors. So yeah, that's a good one. I like that, Peter Cushing. Yeah, for me, it's very much John Pertwee, the third Doctor. Ever since I was a little kid. Ever since I was a little kid, and I was watching Doctor Who on PBS, and they got to the third Doctor, I felt like this is a guy I would really like to meet, because he's sort of warm and affectionate, and he's like the kind of guy that you feel like you could like hang out in really interesting places with this guy. He'd have great stories to tell. He always like knows people and everything, and it's just like, and just that feeling of almost like a parental figure, sort of like an older mentor or whatever that he gives. And as long as you're like part of his like friend group, that you're not, like I say, it's the people who are bigoted and closed-minded that he gets really angry with. Because that's one of the things I hear from people, like, "Oh, but the third Doctor, he seems really harsh." But I'm like, yeah, but look at who he's being harsh with. It's bigoted, closed-minded people, so if you're not part of that, he is a great guy. He is a fun guy to hang out with. And since I'm not somebody who's very like action-oriented or whatever, he's also a good Doctor to hang out with, because I don't have to fill that role as the companion to be like the action person. Like the Doctor can handle it. I can, sort of sit back. So I think that he would be a good one to travel with.
I want to say John Pertwee was like that in real life too. I had a chance to meet him many years ago, and he was just a fun guy just to talk to, because he was still taking in Doctor Who fans back in '85 and going, "This is crazy, but I love it." And was completely the same, almost the same character as his third Doctor. It was really quite amazing. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, he's somebody that I wish that I could have met, because I didn't start going to cons until a few years after he had passed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he was one I always looked at, and I'd still like to travel with him. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the flip side. And I saw Rachel's reactions when Trevor brought up the fifth Doctor, and interestingly enough, that was going to be the one that I brought up as, his companions don't fare that well, like the one or two dead, Chameleon and Edric dead, Nyssa with some horrible disease, Tegan traumatized, Turlo seems to be the only one that might have turned out a little bit okay. He reunited with his people and everything, but that was after he was like, coerced by like one of like the most evil creatures in the universe, and almost, had to kill the Doctor there. So I was going to say, like, is there any Doctor where you feel like, oh man, like it just doesn't seem like things turn out for people with them. So let's mix things up a little bit. Let's start with you, Amber.
So I'm a little less familiar with the classic Who. I've seen a little bit of every Doctor, but I haven't seen everything, so I don't know their whole past. But in New Who, I think Matt Smith's Doctor is the one I'd least want to travel with, because he's a bit flighty, and he kind of just leaves you places, which I think would drive me insane. So I feel like out of the New Who, I love Capaldi. I'd love to travel with him maybe not my first pick, but I feel like out of at least New Who, Smith is probably the last I'd want to be traveling with.
Okay. And Rachel?
I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this. I apologize in advance. I can't do 13. I don't trust. I think the elevator does not go up at all. I think that the roof is off. Don't trust a man with celery, and you don't trust a lady with yellow suspenders. She looked like Morgan Orr. I can't do you. Can't do it. No, God.
Okay.
Is that just all suspenders or just rainbow colored ones? That's what I want to find out.
She gets the yellow. It clashes with everything. It doesn't go with her boots. I mean, her fashion sense is bad. I can't
Okay.
do her.
Gotcha.
You, at least if you're traveling, look good when you're doing it.
All right. Larry?
Well, I want to emphasize, kind of what you said about the Fifth Doctor and the perils, and you forgot about the fact that he actually left somebody behind at the end of Time Flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then he gets her back and he traumatizes her, and then she leaves. So.
Yeah, so it's just he's just one disaster after the other. But the other one is Peter Capaldi. A lot of bad things happen to people that traveled with him or around him. He took kind of a nonchalant attitude about it too, for the most part. And I know that his ratings weren't as good as they could have been, but still, it was just that whole thing. I don't know. And so the Fifth Doctor and Capaldi would be my two. Jodie, I wouldn't mind traveling with because she looks good. So.
All right.
I mean,
there are some companions that I wouldn't mind traveling with for that very reason. Trevor.
Capaldi's a good one in that choice because you think about what happens. And now I'm thinking the actress's name, and I'm forgetting the character's name.
Clara?
Pearl Mackie is who I'm thinking of.
Oh, Bill.
Billy.
Yeah.
Bill. Yeah, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill
Cyberman.
Yeah. What a horrible way to end up. And then at the end, though, still survives. But he, again, just kind of like survives in this weird sort of way that he doesn't even know she survives, right? I mean, that's kind of a horrible way to do that. And I felt like Clara's journey also kind of went sort of strange with that one too. I was just kind of like, man, this is not where that character was starting out with when that was introduced in Matt Smith's and the 11th Doctor's run. I'm just kind of like, all the Doctors have to some degree. There's a certain amount of risk that always comes in. You're right. I think the Fifth Doctor's companions definitely fare on average far worse. I think I would have to go with sadly 12 on that one. The close second, if you only count the television episodes, would be the Sixth Doctor's companions. Does Perry live, or is Perry married to Brian Blessed? We don't know. It's one or the other.
And which is the worse fate?
Depends. Really depends. And poor Mel. Mel gets just such a, again, it's kind of unfortunate on that. Again, if you go outside, you go into like say the books or the audios, the Sixth Doctor's companions have much more interesting adventures, and he has even more of a range of companions. But yeah, I guess I'd have to say at the end of the day, I'd go with Capaldi. Probably would be the one I would least like to travel with. No offenses to his doctor in any way.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, none of this is about the actors, right? This is just about how the characters are portrayed on screen and what happens to them, so but yeah, so it's funny. So some of these I think are a little controversial. People choose a little bit differently. And they see different things out of them. So like you, Trevor, we're talking about the Fifth Doctor, and a couple of us were like, okay, well, no, I wouldn't want to. So I'm kind of curious. Let's talk a little bit more about around that. And there's another one I think is a little controversial too. But after hearing what we were saying about the Fifth Doctor, Trevor, do you think that changes your mind about him being the one you would want to travel with, or do you think that we're looking at the wrong thing?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think those are, again, knowing that there's risks in there, that's a big thing. I guess the way I look at it is there is always an element of risk. And if there's no risk, there isn't a lot of enjoyment in life. That's, I think, maybe the flavor that I was kind of going with on that. I haven't traveled abroad enough, as much as I'd like. I have a brother who does. And so what I hear from his experiences too, are that same thing of where, like, look, things go wrong, and things go wrong more often than you might think. Not bad, horribly catastrophic, but they do. And we plan and we do our best we can to mitigate risk. But at the end of the day, risk is always there. And so I kind of always feel like, what's the better way? Play it safe. And I've played it safe many times in life, but playing it safe yields sometimes very little enjoyment at the end of it. When you look at it, it's a bland experience sometimes. And so I guess I still look at that and go, man, that's the risk on that. The other thing I think I liked about the Fifth Doctor is there was a sense of there was a group of people. So if you're one of those, it's like, it's not always just, a lot of times when you look at a lot of the other Doctors' traveling companion choices, it's always, oh, he's a male and there's a female with him. And that's kind of it. If you're, let's say, like me, in the male demographic side of things, you don't see yourself in that TARDIS crew very much in Third Doctor, Fourth Doctor, Second Doctor. You maybe see yourself a little bit in what? It's Fourth Doctor and what? You're Harry Sullivan? You're the blithering idiot. You don't really want to feel like the blithering idiot. So with the Fifth Doctor, there was this feeling of like, hey, I like lots of people to come with me. I'm happy to let this experience be shared with as many people as want to come along. And you don't always get that sense from some of the other Doctors that you see. There is that sort of sense of, I want this one person to come with me and share this experience with. And it's a very special, intimate relationship. And that, not that that's something I wouldn't mind, but that's why 13 kind of falls in that category too, where she's also got a fan, as she calls them. And that would be more fun too, is that you're traveling with companions who you feel comfortable with, you can share all these things with, awkward moments with. I guess that's what I'm seeing in that.
No, I like that because, yeah, you're right. I mean, the show waffles between that. Like, the first couple of Doctors tended to have more than, one companion with them at a time. And then again, the Fifth Doctor. But other than that, it seems to be a one-on-one relationship for most of the other Doctors, 10 years, at least in the classic series. And then it does go back a little bit in some parts of the new series. But it still always seems to dovetail back to the one-on-one relationship, right? Like every time they experiment with, let's bring back the multiple companions, it's like, okay, it doesn't last very long.
Right.
But yeah, I think the other controversial one that's been brought up, or at least another one, was the Seventh Doctor. And that's, again, it depends on if you're just looking at the TV series or if you're looking at the expanded media. Because if you look at the expanded media and what happens to his companions, it's not all good. There was a novel called Head Games that brought all his companions together, and a lot of it was about like how, because the Seventh Doctor is such a planner and is so manipulative about all the different things that that's traumatized them, has messed them up and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious, because I heard Trevor, I think you were the one that said the Seventh Doctor was one you considered because of the fact that he plans things out, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious about other people's thoughts about the Seventh Doctor. Do you think it's valid to bring in the expanded stuff, or what do you even feel about with just the televised stories and like what, how he interacts with Ace and all of that? I don't know. Does anyone want to take that one up?
Well, as far as the Seventh Doctor, I've read most of the New Adventures and I've heard most of the Big Finish, and I would not include Seventh in any of my travel plans because there were so many bad things that happened in so far, and they're still going on too. He's still recording more, so who knows what's going to happen. But I just think about the little, just the greatest show in the galaxy. Oh, look, a circus. And that turned out to be not so good. And things like that, or even some of like Curse of Fenric or things like that, where things really go bad for innocent people there. And not just the companions, but the people around the Seventh Doctor tend to suffer ill fates.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking I might be okay, but that guy's not going to be good. It's like the red shirt on Star Trek, just the, oh, you're not coming back this time.
Yeah. Rachel, I see you shaking your head. Any thoughts on the Seventh Doctor?
Well, the Seventh Doctor, if you're just going about the television series,
Mhm.
that might be a nice, safe, comfy, fun place, exciting place to be. Because he is a planner, and he knows the answer, and it's something you can rely on. If you get into a sticky situation, you're pretty sure that he's gonna figure it out. Anything else other than that, yeah, that's real scary. That's real scary. But on the other hand, too, I was kind of thinking 8 might be interesting to be with, because it's not like we know a lot about that doctor, but the human-esque aspect of it, especially if you're thinking about the way that 8 was presented in the movie, that might be interesting, because a doctor that has more of a human connection may be a little bit more vulnerable to the companion's experience with him, and the risk may be a bit minimalized. I think that the excitement and the adventure and the quest of knowledge, and what is this, and who is this, and what are they doing, I think that is the essence of his doctor. But I also think that you might be a little bit protected as a companion with 8. So I don't know, but they're not 5.
It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, the Big Finish range is the one that I have focused the most on, is the 8th Doctor, probably because that's like, oh, that's the one that I only got to see once. And so, yes, those are the ones I go to and get more of. And you have an interesting point. He seems very protective of his companions. The ones that I've, like Mary Shelley, he's traveled with Mary Shelley in the audio range. He's traveled with a companion named Charlotte Pollard from the early, she's Edwardian, right?
Yeah.
She's from the Edwardian era. And then he's also traveled with Lucy Miller. And there's some others. I haven't gotten as far ahead beyond that. But the interesting thing that a lot of times happens is, though, particularly with Mary Shelley's character, he seems to bring her into contact with situations and not really thought out very well what this is going to do to her psyche. Because when she's 18 years old at the time, and really not particularly, if you think about it, she's well read for her time, but not prepared for some of the concepts he introduced her to, and that character struggles a lot, very mightily, with her experience with that. So there is a little bit to it. The 8th Doctor's ideas of adventure are great. Sometimes his companions are not ill-suited, unfortunately, mentally and emotionally, to what he exposes them to. So,
well, you can almost say the same thing about 10 and Rose, because I don't think she was ready for that adventure. She thought she was, but she got into a lot of crazy, sticky situations for a person of her age group. That, to me, and the whole thing about like school reunion, psychologically, how do you justify being with a Time Lord, traveling with him for so many years, and for him never ever to have mentioned you to someone else?
Right.
That was hard for me to justify how he did that.
But she pushed through really well.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up the 8th Doctor, the 10th Doctor, like side by side, because I kind of see them as being presented as almost romantic male leads in both of their thing. The movie very much, like these whisking Grace off and they're having this sort of romantic adventure and they're kissing. And then Rose and the 10th Doctor being again, the show's trying to do like, this is a romantic pairing and he is the romantic hero and they're in love with each other and all that kind of stuff. And, when you brought up the 8th Doctor, the thing that I kept thinking about was that the character that people are always comparing him to, the person, is Lord Byron.
Yeah.
Right. The guy that was described as mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, Lord Byron, by all accounts, was a very charismatic guy, right? Like people like to be around him, but because he was sort of like that sort of manic, energetic kind of person, it could also be very dangerous to be around him also. And I think that's what's sort of coming out in the dialogue about the 8th Doctor, is that he was, or he is kind of like that, like he is someone that you can see that sort of loving, affectionate side of him, but then you can also sort of see like, this is a guy that doesn't think things through very much about like, the feelings of the other person or whatever. It's more like I'm drawing you along in my adventure, and you're following me because I'm this charismatic person. And so, yeah, I mean, that definitely changes the dynamic a bit, I think.
Just a quick mention of this, that funny thing you mentioned that quote about Byron. I remember an interview with John Delancey where he was asked, how did he approach playing Q? And he said he approached it exactly from that quote, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. So it's very interesting. I just kind of thought of that weird crossing the fandom streams for a moment when you mentioned
that. One of the things that you brought up, or I think it was you, Trevor, did you bring up the family aspect?
A bit, yeah.
Yeah. So sort of the aspect of more than one companion, and then it being almost more like a family that you're traveling with. So I'm curious, how much does that factor into anybody's choices as far as which doctor that they want to travel with is the companions that you could be with? Because I know when I was talking about John Pertwee, I was almost imagining the third doctor between when Joe leaves and Sarah comes in. So it'd just be me and him traveling together. There wouldn't be other companions. Not that I dislike either Joe or Sarah Jane, but I was just thinking of us two guys palling around kind of thing as part of the sort of idea of, what would I, which doctor would I travel with? But I'm kind of curious, like what everyone feels about like, companions that you could travel with also. So, let's start with you this time, Trevor. I know you mentioned, a little bit about that, but are there any particular companions that you're like, oh yeah, I'd like to travel with them?
Well, only because he's my secret man crush would be Captain Jack Harkness. But oh my gosh, I mean, I do like one of the elements I do like about the 13th Doctor's adventures is that group. They are really lovely. These are people I would like to be around. And they have this broad range of age in some ways too, a little bit, because you've got the older with Graham, with his experiences, and then you've got these two younger, sort of, adults, young adult people there, in Yaz. And now I'm forgetting it. And again, I remember the actors' names. Sometimes I forget the characters' names.
Ryan.
That's it, Ryan. And I just love them as characters. I love them as people. I love how they experience things, and how deeply they feel what they experience, and how personal they take things. I think it sometimes is very easy in some of these portrayals to take it just for the fantastic elements. And they found a way, those three characters, to bring it very much into your sense of self. How would you feel about this when you experience it? How would that affect you? What would you do in that situation? They really bring that home to me. So I guess I would say I would definitely love to travel with the 13 Doctors fan.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, because I think that is the advantage that they lose when they do the one-on-one, because a companion traveling with the Doctor, there's no way to make that super real, because he's such a different person than anyone you could ever encounter in real life, or she. The Doctor is a different kind of person than you'd ever encounter in real life. So, it's hard to bring that reality. But when you do expand out and allow for multiple companions, you can get these relationships that feel very, very much like real relationships, and you can get a little more of that reality, into the performances. Rachel, what about you? Did the companion even factor into your decision for Capaldi, or would you just like to travel with the Doctor by yourself? And are there any companions you would like to travel with?
Oh, it actually did, because you have to think about it in terms of time. How much time do you want to spend in the TARDIS with other people? And I say that because you don't know where you're going and what you're going to experience when you're with the Doctor. So if you're going to be with someone else, let's say like Sarah and Harry, right? Or the Doctor with Liz Shaw, right? You want to be with someone who, if you get in a sticky situation, you guys can vibe off each other and you guys might survive, But to have 3 people in the TARDIS, and it's not so questionable if the other 2 can make it. I will do 2. I can't do 3. But in my particular case, I was thinking if I were going to go traveling with the Doctor and it was the 3rd Doctor, I would love to have Liz Shaw as my companion. If I were going traveling with the Doctor and the Doctor was the 4th Doctor, it would have to be Romana. 1.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
No disrespect.
Yeah, I know. It's just Mary Tam, I feel like doesn't get as much love as Lala Ward, and yeah, I like Mary Tam a lot too.
Oh, me too.
Mary Tam was hot. And I think in New Who, it is really a toss-up because they had such amazing companions, but I would really like to be I want to say Donna so bad. I really want to say Donna's so much fun. I think I would love to do Donna. I think I would. Me, the Doctor, and the Dr. Donna. Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah, and at least you wouldn't feel like such a third wheel like you would, like you might with like the Doctor and Rose or something like that. It's kind of like, yeah, things don't turn out well for the people who travel with the Doctor and Rose. At least not at first. They go through some bad stuff before things get better. All right, so Larry, what about you?
Well, if I were going to go with 3, it would have to be Ben, Polly, and Jamie. That very short-lived trio from Power of the Daleks to the Faceless Ones, because they got into a mess of trouble in those few episodes. But just how Jamie being new and naive still in that time period, and Ben kind of being the protector, and Polly kind of being her own woman, which was great. They were a great trio to follow, and I think that would be an interesting person to be the 4th person in that lineup with Patrick Troughton's Doctor, managing the whole thing. So that would be a good 3. Of course, the original 3 too of Ian, Barbara, and Susan would also be a great one, because Ian certainly wasn't afraid to put himself into danger. He always put himself out to protect Barbara, and Susan had a mind of her own too, and she was able to take care of herself. And I thought, and with the old cranky Doctor kind of going, why are these people here, and to going from that to I'm going to miss them. It was just a great group to watch those original episodes and that threesome traveling all the way to Dalek Invasion of Earth. It was just an amazing thing. And I think he even had 4 at one point with Stephen Taylor in that last episode of The Chase. So you just a great group of people from that early time.
Mm-hmm. No, that's you actually took the one that I was going to say. If I was going to travel with a companion group, like that's what I would like for the family aspect. I'd like to travel with Ian and Barbara, because I think they're both amazing. So that's a very good pick. I mean, if I was going to go with the 3rd Doctor still and say not between companions, I would like to travel with the 3rd Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Oh yeah.
I think that Sarah Jane, I actually prefer her in that first season. I mean, and not to say I don't like her with Tom. And they certainly have more of like that sort of general friendship together when it's her and Tom. But I feel like there's sort of like a fire to Sarah Jane in that first season that she has with John Pertwee that I really love. I really enjoy how ready she is to fight for what she believes in. And she does seem, because Tom is such a dominating personality, it seems like she backs away a little bit when he's there. Like especially after he gets established after the first story or so, it seems that Sarah Jane just comes down a little bit, and I prefer her as that feistier person. And I would like to meet her like that, and she actually remembered she was a journalist in that first season, where we don't see much of that after that. And that would be kind of cool too. But yeah, Amber, what would you want to travel with a companion and the Doctor, or would you just be I'm sorry, there's feedback or something on this line. Anybody? Okay, it seems to be gone. All right. All right. Anyway, Amber, hopefully it's just on my end here or something. What would you think about companions?
Rachel, when you mentioned Donna,
Can everybody except Amber mute?
It says Rachel speaker.
I'm good. You hear me?
Rachel's speaker is causing the feedback.
What do I do?
Try turning it down a bit.
That good?
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so Rachel, when you mentioned Donna, like I really want to say Donna because Donna and Bill are like my top two favorite companions of all time. I've loved them, but I think Donna is good with 10, and I don't know that I want to travel with the 10th Doctor. I feel like he's almost a little too caught up with like the past, and he's not really focused on like what we're doing right now. And if we're gonna travel together, I want to be focused on like what we're doing and where we're traveling to. So I don't know that I want the pair of them, Donna with 10. So I feel like what I really enjoy is having like some really like smart conversation and like talking through like seeing some really cool things and actually I think aside from the 13th Doctor's fam, because I do think I'd really love traveling with them, I think Martha might actually be really fun for me to travel with, and I actually don't really enjoy Martha as a companion in the show, but as a travel companion for me, I think that would be nice. I don't really want to travel with the Doctor with just me. I think I need a few other people. I'm really introverted too, and the Doctor tends to be like really energetic. And at some point, I'm going to get really tired. So I need a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a break. I think so. I think traveling with the group, or if it was maybe not 10, but one of the other Doctors with Martha, I think I would enjoy that.
Yeah, you might need to sit Martha down and have a little heart to heart with her and be like, girl, you need to get over it. He's not into you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, really quick, because we only got a few more minutes here. A question came in about which Doctor do you think would permit you to travel with him or her, which is kind of an interesting question because the Doctor doesn't take everybody in, that wants to travel, and so really quick, Larry, any thoughts on that?
I think the 4th Doctor, he was always asking people come along, and some said yes, some said no. Like, Harry Sullivan. Harry, he goes, nope, I'm good. But I think he was like always welcoming, and even when he found a stowaway like Adric, he welcomed him eventually.
Yeah, and even though like the thing with Leela, he makes it seem like he didn't want her to go with him. Like I think he did. I think he's just playing. Yeah. So Trevor, what about you? What Doctor do you think would allow you to travel with him?
I got the sense the 2nd Doctor the very same way. I don't know that the 2nd Doctor ever had a feeling of I'd refuse anyone or anything like that. It's kind of more like, yeah, go ahead, tag along. This is, you're in for a ride. So I'd say the 2nd Doctor is probably one of the most welcoming from the classic era. And then from the current era, I would definitely say it's probably 10 is probably also one of the most welcoming. I think about how the fact that 9th was happy to take one along and then show just why he shouldn't be going along with Adam. So I'd say 10 is probably more tolerant after that experience. So,
okay, Rachel.
Oh, I think Rachel's still muted.
Yeah, can you unmute?
Oh, is that good? Okay. I was thinking for the same thing. I was thinking 10 because he always kept saying he wanted to have a mate with him. So I would think that he would probably ask you on. And I'm thinking maybe 8. I think 8.
All right, Amber, really quick.
Yeah, I not to keep bringing up the 13th because I love all these other ones, but I feel like the 13th is most likely to invite me on. Actually, I think 10 to me felt one of the least likely ones because while he did want to have someone traveling with him, he seemed a little resistant until he was sort of forced into it. In most cases, I think, and I'm probably not going to be the kind of person who's going to force myself into the TARDIS so that I can be there and be a part of that, a la Donna. So I feel like 13 is to me was one of the most welcoming, and I mean she wanted a big family with her traveling.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo the second doctor for mine. I think that the second doctor was a very welcoming doctor and didn't really have enough of a structure to really care about, like, this is my TARDIS and you're not going to come in here, you know. I think the ones who are probably least likely would be like the first or the sixth doctor. Like they were the ones who seemed to like have a little more like anger about things and not want people to like trample on things that they didn't, you know, that they had set up. So yeah, anyway, I think we've come to our time here. So I will turn things back over to Steve and Dick.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Great panel. I want to give your panelists one last chance to say any final words that they want to say and say goodbye to everybody. Go ahead.
Well, it's great to be here, Nathan. Always great to see you guys. Great to meet all the rest of you. So thanks for putting this together. This was great.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Larry. And Amber?
I don't have anything else to say other than to echo what Larry said. Thanks for having me on here.
No problem. It's good having you. All right, Rachel?
It's been a blast. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Let's do this next year.
Yeah, hopefully in person next time.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Trevor?
Yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great, particularly in this season of COVID. So it's wonderful to see some faces, meet some new friends, and I look forward to us doing this in person one time again soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes, very much so. And yeah, again, I'm Nathan. I'm the host of the 42 Cast and Time Streams. You can check those out at all the normal podcast outlets. And it was great having all of you on and being able to do this. And Nick and Steve and everybody involved and Holly and everyone else involved with Chicago TARDIS, thank you for doing the virtual con this year.
Thank you. All right. So coming up next at the 3 o'clock hour, the Timeless Children and Continuity, where Eric Gulbranson talks about or leads a discussion on developments in the show recently, and also some other things that have changed continuity as we know it in Doctor Who over the years. So make sure you join us for that at 3 o'clock. Nick, do you have anything you'd like to add? Nick, you're muted.
It happens. Sometimes even the best of us will forget that minor thing. So I just want to remind everybody, make sure that you post online, use that hashtag CTVirtual20, and get involved in the convention, post some Dalek pictures, and thank you especially to all of our panelists today.
Yep. Thank you, panelists. And viewers, please be sure to leave feedback. You can do that in the Sketch app at chicagotardis2020.sketch.com. Go into the panel that you just saw, Traveling with the Doctor, and search for the function of leaving feedback for that panel. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Onward.